Hey, everybody, quick message before the podcast starts here. Rich and I were honored to have Brian Lee Durfee on the podcast a couple weeks ago or so. And since that time, he's unfortunately ended up in the hospital and there's some complications. And you can read more in the description below, along with a GoFundMe for his hospital and his physical needs and all the expenses that come with hospital bills. So if you guys can support it all, Rich and I are going to go as well. And we're just posting this episode that we had with Brian Lee Durfee about piracy. It was a great conversation, and we might as well upload it and also bring attention to his GoFundMe and this what a great guy he is. So
yeah, so go into the description below, be top of the description, and go help the guy out. He definitely deserves it.
All right, everybody, enjoy the episode.
But you did make a good point about well, I forgot what the point was.
Must not have been that good.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Tutor Ramble episode. I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
And I'm the other, Richard.
And it's not just us today. We have the Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Black... Sorry, I have to get the order right. The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, The Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster, Saga Press. He has his own booktube channel, Brian Lee Durfee Reviews. Welcome, Brian, to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Richard. Thanks, Austin.
Why'd you say Richard first? Come on, man.
Yeah, he sensed the authority.
Yeah.
The name Richard just implies a kingliness, you know?
King Richard. There's no King Austin out there.
No, there is not.
Rich, do you want to explain why we have Brian on and why we're honored to have him on the podcast? And we're going to have a whole conversation about a little bit of piracy, but why is this all happening, Rich?
Well, first and foremost, we just love to steal the clout of other booktube channels. It's wonderful for us. But the real reason is we made a video on the possible benefits of piracy for authors, basically going over the subject of that while piracy may be bad, it is not as bad as obscurity. It's kind of our point. There's some interesting stories in the past of authors that actually were able to use piracy to actually gain sales. Anyway, we got a comment from Brian, sparking an interesting conversation, especially because Brian himself has been in the thick of it with actual pirates on YouTube, stealing his audiobook and just taking his money. And yeah.
So Brian agrees and disagrees with us on some stuff. And Brian, do you want to give your experience of how you found that piracy video, what your initial thoughts were on what happened with your own book and how that got pirated?
Sure. So yeah, I had just made a video about 3 or 4 days previous to seeing your video of someone had pirated all 3 of my books and put them up on YouTube for free, and they had got tens of thousands of views. And so I did a video, and I don't know if you guys watched it, on my YouTube channel saying, well, I don't like piracy. Basically, that was it.
I saw the video,
yeah.
But it seems to be gone from your channel now.
Right.
Yeah, it's gone because once the videos were removed from YouTube, I decided to take...
Okay, got it.
Once my pirated books were finally removed from YouTube, I took the video down. And I took my Instagram post down, and I took my Facebook post down because the videos, YouTube had a lot of people did copyright strikes. So I'll go through it from... kind of the beginning, wherein in your video I kind of made a snide comment like, well, why don't you guys just start giving your stuff away for free, right? if it's so beneficial to them, just give it away. And but I want to make a couple points on that because you guys can give it away. One of the points I want to make about piracy and giving away your own material is well, it's consent or not consent, you guys, if you guys make a decision to let people do clips of your videos, well, you've given them permission. And even if they don't ask for permission, you guys said you're cool with that. But you've given your permission to be cool with that. There's a difference between permission and not permission. And so we'll get into that as we go on. I wanted to start with Neil Gaiman. He his video was interesting in a lot of different ways, because he started his video saying, when he first found out that his books were being pirated, he said he was pretty grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Now, I think that is his nice way of saying he was
Pissed. Yeah.
betrayed. He felt betrayed. He felt like someone had probably, broken into his house and stolen his things. Because when you're a creator, and when you've and you guys are creators yourselves, when you have spent so much time and effort putting something together, and then trying to get a publishing deal, and finally landing a publishing deal, and starting to make money at the things that you love, and then someone just, without your permission, without your consent, just takes it and puts it up on the internet for free, you feel violated. So when he says, I felt grumpy initially, he was being very kind, I believe. I think he was in as much shock as every other author is when that happens, or any musician, or even filmmaker. So there's a sense of betrayal, and I've had my car broken into once and things taken from it, and yeah, I felt like, you really feel terrible. Like, oh my gosh, what is the world coming to? Who are these people? When I was in high school, our house got broke into, and some things were stolen, and the whole family felt violated. The whole family felt horrible. And I'm telling you, when I first started seeing stuff of mine being pirated on the internet, the same emotions are brought up, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally makes sense.
Oh, completely get it. Yeah.
When Neil Gaiman says, I felt grumpy initially, I think he felt everything I just explained.
Also, I would be remiss to not mention the irony of the hat you're currently wearing. I just
on purpose.
Oh, okay. I wanted to know if it was on purpose or not. Had to mention.
Could you tell me what that is? I'm out of the loop. What's it say?
Do you not have your glasses on?
No, I can't.
It's a pirate skull.
Oh my God! I'm blind.
You're so
I am
blind.
so. Oh, and I need you both have glasses, and I'm the one that can't see.
The screen is 3 feet away.
Brian, I kid you not. The screen's right in front of us. We have a 50-foot plasma TV screen in front of us, and I could not tell. No, we don't. But sorry. So you have a pirate on your beanie. That's awesome for audio only listeners.
Well, something I want to talk with you about this, Brian, because I can understand, to kind of make our position very clear, is piracy itself, like someone who pirates a book and they can pay for it, it's like, it's wrong, shouldn't do it. It's more of the response of, I guess how we think of it, or I'll speak for myself, how I think of it is with the internet and with piracy being available, I don't really see much of an option of putting the lid back on Pandora's box in a lot of ways. It's not going away. And so what do you do about that? I think it's far more productive to figure out, like, okay, now that this is an issue, it's part of the playing field. You have to get creative at being able to circumvent it or benefit from the situation. And that's kind of where we took our video, that if an author and if a publisher is prepared for it, because if they're not, then of course it's only negative. But if you prepare for it, if you put in other avenues of money where there's a ladder of sales, so maybe the ebook is pirated, but you have a premium $50 edition of the book, that it kind of leads those sales. So like, that's kind of how I see it. There's ways around it, but there's a bunch of caveats with that, of course, with the money it requires for all that. So
we'll get into all that in this episode. But yeah, Brian, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to get into later was the idea of a loss leader. You guys know what a loss leader is, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a business term where you give one product away for free, hoping that people will buy 10 more. And so, and we'll get into that a little bit. And companies do that again. They make a decision to do that.
Right.
It's not, the decision isn't made by a pirate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They make the decision to do that. one of the things I wanted to get back to with the Neil Gaiman thing was, I think that he realizes that, I think he realized, well, I can be upset and feel betrayed and feel grumpy, as he put it, or I can just try to find the silver lining, because one of my writer friends, his name is Kevin J. Anderson. He talks about this a lot in conferences, pirating. And Kevin J. Anderson did like a lot of Star Wars Legends books, and he collaborates on the Dune books with Brian Herbert,
Mm-hmm.
And so he's been in the business a long time, and he said, piracy is like whack-a-mole. You get one pirate out of the way and 12 others spring up.
Right.
And so it's just a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. You're never going to win. So you just kind of have to be like, well, it is what it is. It's not going away. What I wanted to talk about is kind of the emotions of someone who's been pirated, and why Neil Gaiman gets grumpy, why I get snarky, why I react in a visceral way, and a lot of it is just anger management issues. I need to take, you guys know that I work at the Utah State Prison.
Yes,
right?
did know that. Yeah. And can I just, a little caveat, you not only work there, you have the YouTube channel and an author, and you still find 5 hours to read. That's because you prioritize reading. I saw your videos on that. Just wanted to slide in there. We need to do better, Rich.
It is incredibly impressive.
You have so yes, we know you work there. And sorry, finish your point.
I want to circle back around to the criminal element of piracy at some point, and talk to you and let you give you some insight into, because I know criminals that have pirated.
Oh.
I know what they do behind the scenes, and we're going to talk about that. Okay, so the thing is I get kind of, your visceral reaction is, and the reason I brought up the prison is because not only have I been a prison guard, and like I've worked in the gang unit and the mental health unit and a lot of different things, but I've also taught classes to inmates, like thinking for a change, anger management, a lot of different like life skill classes, and
right.
The anger management class, I tell you, I need the class just as much as because when I get pirated,
and
then I tell people I've been pirated, I can use some angry language, and I'll admit, one thing I want to make clear is I don't like the pirates. I don't like the people that put it on the internet. Now, the people that download it, I don't really have a problem, because I'm going to get into some things where, because one of you guys said that there are some reasons where it's almost like some companies are begging you to pirate stuff just by how stupid of decisions they make.
Yeah.
And we'll get into, I mean?
I think
the subscriptions and things like that you mentioned, and like Audible, like, well, what if they just go out of business and you're all the books you bought off Audible are non-existent? I want to get into that a little bit later too.
Yeah, Rich, you had that point on Nintendo and Nintendo games that aren't available anymore, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's also, I think, something about the conversation that when I was doing research for our video, that when thinking about pirating, it's sometimes hard to get out of our kind of United States, USA centric brain and our bubble, and hearing and reading stories about foreign countries that have to deal with just trying to get books in other countries sometimes, and different translations where in Russia that the book doesn't exist in their language. Like, no one's made a translation for it. The only translation that's available is someone that pirated it, did a translation on their own. Or something like in Brazil, where you're trying to buy the book, but for some reason, the company makes the price in US dollars and makes it for the US market. And they can't afford to spend several meals worth on one book.
And so here's a good distinction for
that's where I got really interested of like going someone in the US trying to like skate away from $10 ebook. To me, is like, come on, man, you can spend $10 if you have a job, you can do it. If you're in Brazil, like that $10.
Well, yeah, I
understand them a lot more.
That distinction there, if you're talking about on the consumer end, right? The person that's buying it.
Yes.
So what to clarify here in this whole conversation, like there's two people involved in piracy. There's the person putting it out there, the person that actually pirated your books, Brian, and then there's all the people that are seeing it and choosing to do that over buying the book, which it seems so. In the bulk, to clarify, when we're going forward, Rich and I think a lot of what we did in our piracy video was talking about the consumer end of, we kind of assume, well, piracy is inevitable. The bad guys are going to do the bad guy thing. So how do you get those consumers also benefit the author, and where is it? When is it moral? When's it immoral? And one of the parts you're talking about, Rich, is, hey, if there's, if you're, for example, stealing and killing, all these things are also, there's always caveats. The killing is wrong, unless self-defense, right? Stealing is wrong and you shouldn't do it, but if you're starving and that's your only way you could feed your family. So there's always that, a reason to make it more right than wrong, which we'll get into on the consumer end. But let's start with just the pirators themselves. Can we agree that it's bad to take somebody's thing?
There is no good reason, there is no justifiable reason to take someone else's work and then try and profit off of it. Like, it's pure theft. You're not nothing.
Later on, I want to get into what kind of profit they might, what kind of motives they have. Okay. But I wanted to get out of the way first that the video I made right after I found out that my 3 books, the only 3 books I've ever published, my only 3 books were on YouTube for free.
Brian, can you say the 3 books? Let's get those plugs out there. What are the 3 books?
The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown.
Hell yeah.
There we go.
Hell yeah.
All 3 of those books were, and they're the only books that I have out there.
Yeah.
Were on YouTube for free. Now this happens about every 5 or 6 months. We have to shut this down, and usually the books are on YouTube for about a month and a half before we discover it, and they get tens of thousands of views. The issue, the thing that I wanted to get out of the way first was the emotional impact that it has on the person that's been pirated, and the anger that it can create. And so when I made my video, and when I started to comment on other people's videos about piracy, I would be snarky and angry because I was in an angry state.
Yeah.
And I think in my video, I called the pirates themselves, like the people that stole it and put it up on the internet, I think I called them scumbags. And then I think and some of the people in the comments were like trying to justify it. And I was like, well, you guys are losers. And so those are words that you end up saying if you don't have very good anger management skills. Like,
do you regret saying that stuff?
Oh, not really. Because it's in the heat of the moment. I don't think that people that pirate, I don't think that people that download things for free are losers. We've all done it. And I think you guys have made that point early on in your video. We have every single one of us has clicked on something on YouTube that we didn't realize was a copyright issue, and that some creator out there probably didn't want it up, especially music,
Oh yeah.
And, so we've all done it just by accident. And so I don't think people are losers for doing it, even though when I lash out in anger at the spur of the moment, I might say that.
Right. Rich and I, we're losers for different reasons, but not for pirating. Come on.
I'm losing for all sorts of reasons. So I just wanted to talk about the Neil Gaiman thing first.
Yeah.
Because I really liked the fact that he was an author commenting on it. And I think that his comments were kind of from an angle of, gosh, it sucks that it happened. It made me angry that it happened. But now I just kind of have to throw up my hands and deal with it and try to find the silver lining. So here are some of the silver linings. He talked about the whole Russia issue of his books being available in Russia only through piracy, and he probably gained some fans in Russia because of that. But one of the things he mentioned, and I want to make this point crystal clear, is he mentioned that he thought he had to really sort of talk his publisher into putting one of his books up for free on their website to see what happened. And in his words, that they put the book up for free on the website, and what happened was they noticed a rise in sales in independent bookstores of some 300% during the time that book was up for free. And so he's saying that having the free book generated sales in independent bookstores. My thing is, I wish we would know more, because he's not telling us everything about the situation. The first thing about the situation he's telling us that's important is he made the decision and his publisher made the decision to do that. That was a loss lead a lost leader. Let's you know, and companies will do that. They will put something up for free or for a discounted price, hoping that they can sell their other products for the regular price. And that's what the decision was that they made. A pirate didn't make the decision for them. They made it. They, you know,
They gave permission, gave that consent to do so.
Yeah, yeah. And he had to talk his publisher into it.
Mhm.
And that's the important thing, is if this was such a windfall of sales for them, I would like to ask Neil Gaiman, why didn't they continue it? Maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they did continue it. Maybe they did, you know, randomly do that. But if I know anything about the publishing industry, it's that if they can make a buck anyway, they will. And if they had a 300% rise in sales, and then just after a month said, we're not going to do any more of that, that would be silly. So clearly there's something that Neil Gaiman's not really telling us about the whole thing. Like, why didn't his publisher keep doing it? Like I said, maybe they did. We don't know. I don't know. Now, what if Neil Gaiman would have done that on his own without his publisher's permission?
I mean,
well, then he would have
clear violation of his contract.
Yes, and he would have been in trouble.
Mhm.
But if I am to put my audiobooks up on YouTube for free, Audible.com would never work with me again.
Right.
That would be the punishment.
Mhm.
So why does a pirate get to do it?
I
Why does a
mean,
pirate get to circumvent? And there's no repercussion for the pirate. They don't. Nobody knows who that was that did it. They're not going to suffer anything. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when I tell you about some of the criminals that I've met at the prison that have been involved in this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
oh, you met in prison?
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
Oh, yes.
Oh, would love to hear some of that.
Yeah. So, why would a pirate? Why would someone take my books? And they don't just do this with me. They rotate through every author out there, throwing those books up on YouTube for free. It's always out there.
Mhm.
Just about every 4 or 5 months, I'm in the rotation and mine go up. But I've seen all sorts of pirated audiobooks on YouTube, and they usually last for a month or two, and then they're gone because somebody finds out and the publisher does a copyright strike and they get taken down. Why do you think a pirate would do that? Why do you think a person would do that?
To
What do they gain from it?
to drive attention to links that they have in the description.
Exactly. And these links are, and a lot of people think this is a conspiracy theory, that there's boogeyman behind these links. But there is. Not all of them. There is. One of the things that it's devious of putting things up on YouTube is because that's a safe website to go to. Now, most people, if they want to pirate an ebook or a song or a movie, they go to a website, and their heart of hearts, they know that that's website sketchy. They know if they click on that link, there's a possibility they're going to get malware on their computer. There's a possibility that somebody will figure out a way into their bank account. There's a lot of fraud that goes on, and everybody in their heart of hearts knows when they go to a link on a website with pirated stuff, they know that they're taking a risk. So there is a boogeyman behind it. Now, what's devious about doing it on YouTube is, well, YouTube is a non-risk environment, unless you click on those links. And a lot of people might, because those links look very real. It's like Brian Lee Durfee's book is on YouTube for free. Hey, this is where you can buy it. And it's a link, all these links to different websites that look sort of legit, like recordednovels.com, which doesn't exist, or audible.com, where, you know, maybe maybe there's a few little tweaks to the, you know how internet, stuff works, they just change a few little dashes and things and then next thing you know, you're at a website that maybe, and so 10,000 people click on the video. How many people look in the comments and find those links? Probably not many. And the ones that do find those links, how many click on them? Probably not many. And then the ones that do click on them, how many keep clicking on stuff and then end up with viruses or malware or they're all it takes out of 10,000 people clicking on the video of the Forgetting Moon on YouTube that's been pirated and put up there for free. All the criminal that's doing it wants is maybe he wants to catch a handful of fish. You know what I mean? Because if he could catch a handful of fish and he can take their money, maybe it's 1,500, maybe, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a more devious way of us, we hope, of the 10,000 people that watch that, a handful get on the Patreon. It's the opposite of that, where they're doing it to get you malware, do something
It's all the
mischievous.
same. The internet is all the exact same game of, it's a game of attention. And
Yep.
people can go about that honestly and try to garner attention in a legal and moral way, or you can go about it dishonestly and steal people's work. But
Right.
it's all the same game.
And so this takes me back to my work at the prison,
Mhm.
where one day, in one of my classes I was teaching, the inmates have to stand up and give a testimonial of, their dishonesty and how they're trying to change their lives, yada, yada, yada. Each testimonial is about a half an hour long. And I learned a lot about the criminal mindset and what different jobs different inmates had when they were growing up. And I learned a lot about the world just listening to their stories. But there was this one kid from the Sudan who stood up and he talked about when he was in the Sudan, he was involved in a lot of this piracy. And he was like, yeah, we the criminal behavior that I was involved in was pretty bad. I mean, it was sex trafficking, it was pedophile rings, it was a lot of really horrible stuff. And he says, and we were financing a lot of it just by stealing money off of the internet from people who just wanted to pirate the next Avengers movie. And so this is where, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was like, that it went like that. That's what a lot of these mobsters, and then some of the other guys in the class were like, that they'd been in the Mexican cartel, and they were like, oh yeah, that's a big part of our. I mean, if it's illegal and we can make money at it, doesn't matter if it's selling drugs or running brothels or stealing stuff off the internet or pirating stuff.
Mhm.
We're involved. And all the money goes to really bad stuff. So there is a boogeyman behind some of it. I'm not saying all of it. I'm saying some of it. And so why should my book be the bait for some of this really bad stuff that's going on in the world?
Well, it sounds like the answer here, and this is kind of the central question that I enjoy talking about, because to me, the answer to your question of why me is more the obvious of there's no good reason. There's no good reason they did it. There's no justification for it, and there's nothing that you can particularly do differently to stop them. Only, react. And so to that end, if there's nothing you can particularly do to stop them, what's your option? And so I'd kind of like to discuss with you on what is there for you to do as an author to play the game, as it were. Because I think there was a really good an author that did a really brilliant thing. I hope you can help me bring up the author's name again.
Maggie Stiefvater, or the author of The Raven Cycle.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought
I read the interview by her. Yeah.
her plan was brilliant. Instead of actually going
to give some
outsmarting.
To give some context to what happened in the Raven Cycle, book 1 and book 2 did super well. Book 1, great. Book 2, great. And the third book was going to be released, and I'll give some more context to this later, but the third book was coming out and people weren't buying it. And the publishers weren't about to continue the Raven Cycle. And the reason people weren't buying it is Maggie went out to prove that, hey, people are pirating this book. That is why it's not getting purchased a bunch. So I'm seeing on all these different sites it's being pirated, so people aren't buying my book. So Maggie, what she does in response to that is what you're about to go into.
She made a a published ebook, like a PDF that was the exact same pages as all the actual official books, but the first 4 chapters repeated over and over again. At the end, it was like, hey, don't pirate books, support your authors, and all that. And then spread that copy to the wind and put it on all these different sites, to the point where she goes onto these forums, and now everyone's like, can anyone find an actual real link? I keep getting these not actually full book links.
Yep.
And her sales skyrocketed because she beat the pirate in a very creative way. But
and that's pretty cool. And that's pretty cool. And I like that. And another thing is again, she did that of her own volition.
Yeah, no,
she strategized that out.
Sure.
And,
that's the we can only control what we do. We can't control the actions of others. Only
you were 100% correct, and that's what in every one of my classes I teach the inmates. I'm like, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah, it's really that stoic approach of events don't change you, just you have to react to the events around you. And
so one of the things that Neil Gaiman talked about was, okay, my sales went up 300%. So this is what happens every time my books get uploaded to YouTube off of Audible. I don't know the research behind ebooks and how many of my ebooks get pirated. I don't care. It's just too hard to track that down. My physical books, of course, that's just, I'm sure a few of them have been shoplifted at some point.
Well, actually, we'll get back to that. I have something I wanted to ask you on that.
Yeah, but the Audible books, and here's the, now Neil Gaiman said that, oh my gosh, it made sales go up. Well, I can track my audible.com sales, and let me tell you, when those 3 books, my only 3 books I've ever had published, get put up on YouTube for free, my Audible sales flatline dead. It's not helping at all.
Yeah.
And recorded books and Audible books, when I email my agent and I say, hey, the books are back up on YouTube, he emails recorded books and Audible, and they are on top of it so quickly. And it still takes YouTube 7-8 days to take them down, So the publishers know that it's bad. The publishers are not a fan of it at all. If piracy was really this windfall of money and new readers that people say that it is, the publishers would not be fighting against it so much. And some of the statistics I looked up, and maybe you guys looked them up too. The stats that I looked up, 2023 stats on that the government has done on the damage piracy does to businesses. And this is every business, including film companies, music companies, publishers, software manufacturers, video games. The they estimate $991 billion have been lost to these companies due to piracy. They also say that job losses due to piracy are in the hundreds of thousands. People just get fired if the company's not making money, and the tax revenue itself, and this is what the government's most concerned about, is
right.
lost money. The tax revenue, this is why it's illegal. It's illegal because it damages businesses, and it damages the tax revenue that the government can collect from those businesses. And that's why it's illegal. And there's a lot of copyright laws that make it illegal too. And another thing is the Interpol. Do you know what Interpol is? It's kind of like the worldwide police organization that helps police everywhere. Interpol is, they say that what I've found out firsthand in the prison, I should put my glasses on. I probably look weird. Oh man.
Now you look like yourself.
I don't like it. 2 guys with glasses, I'm uncomfortable. Let's change that up, Ryan.
Yeah, you need 3 guys with glasses. You blind bat.
I had my glasses off, and then I was looking at myself on the screen, and I'm like, who's that ugly old man?
That's just Richard through your screen. That's all.
The glasses make me instantly 15 years younger. Anyway, okay. Interpol estimates that and it's basically what what I talked about with the inmates that I've talked to at the prison, that so much illegal activity is funneled through piracy, and so much illegal activity is funded with piracy. So those are just the kind of the things that, this is why it's illegal. This is why people now, when Napster first started, you remember they were the first kind of big internet pirate site where they were taking music and just putting it up for free, and then the guys from Metallica got involved, remember? And then everybody hated Metallica. And so this is why a lot of people don't like speaking out about it. A lot of artists and filmmakers and movie stars and authors, they just don't want to say anything because they saw what happened to the dudes from Metallica when they spoke out about it.
What did happen? I'm unfamiliar with that, the Metallica situation.
So
Go ahead.
Metallica was the first band to take Napster to court.
Okay.
Over illegally putting up their music.
Mm-hmm.
And Lars Ulrich, the drummer for Metallica, said it best. He's like, and he said what I just said earlier in the videos is, you put these songs up without our permission. Now, if you'd have just asked our permission and maybe given us like a royalty or something, that would have been fine. But you did it without our permission. And he said, Metallica is rich enough, it's not going to hurt us. But I'm speaking out for the little guy, the little musician who's going to have all of his stuff stolen. And when stuff gets stolen, this piracy and all the money that's lost, and I was talking to, I know some movie directors. I've been talking to some movie directors about some projects and things. And one of the movie directors that I talked to, who has, I can't mention his name, but he's done some big blockbuster movies. He said, one of the reasons studios don't, people want fresh and exciting and new ideas. But the studios lose so much on piracy that it's just better for them to do the next X-Men or the next Avengers because they know it's a hit. If they really did have all the money that they should have, they could maybe take some risks. So it's not just hurting the bottom line of these big companies. It's hurting what we get to see and what we get to read because it discourages people from taking risks and publishing books. And so it is a big discouragement. Now, one of the things that Neil Gaiman also said was...
I think we're going to title the video Brian Lee Durfee versus Neil Gaiman.
No, I have no problem with Neil Gaiman. I don't know. I've been in the same room with him. I've never talked to him. I'm really good friends with Mike Dringenberg, who is one of the artists on The Sandman. I'm really good friends with him, but I don't really have anything against it. And I hope that doesn't come across that I'm just criticizing everything that Neil said.
No, we're joking.
Yeah, we're playing with you.
I understand why he said it. One of the things he said was, piracy is kind of like the new way people lend each other books, kind of a thing.
Well, I was actually going to bring that up to you. I understand right out of the gate, the scale is different with the internet. But on a practical standpoint, a used bookshop where a lot of people find new authors that they read, to the author, I mean, isn't that effectively piracy to the author's standpoint, where the author's not getting any money from that transaction? It's solely the third party.
But tax revenue's there.
Yeah, because especially with most secondhand bookstores go on donations. They don't they're not buying books from the author to then resell them.
Right.
I understand right off the gate its scale with the internet, but what are your thoughts on...
Well, everything, there's a secondhand store for everything, not just books. There's antique stores, there's everything. But the book was initially purchased by someone. That's the same thing with libraries. Libraries are great for the publishers because those libraries pay the publisher for a book. And maybe the library can loan that book out to 30 people. And so, that is kind of like piracy.
But also, those library books cost more than the one you buy at Barnes & Nobles. Normally, they pay per, like, estimate of how many times it could be lent out. Something like, oh, we expect the book would be lent out 20-ish times, and so they pay 15 times the actual book cost.
I don't think it's that much, but...
it may not be that much, but it's more than Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, with ebooks, the library is only allowed to lend them out like maybe 20 times, and then they have to re-up the ebook or something like that. The windfall that, like, you know, I kind of, gosh, I almost sort of agree with the Gaimen on that one. It's like, yeah, I mean,
scratch the title idea.
You probably do gain some readers from piracy, but it's all the talking points you brought up on your video, and I think I said this in my comment, are the anomalies. They're not like the general rule. Piracy usually just hurts most of us. Maybe there's been a few authors that...
Yeah, the one thing to bring up on that...
In Russia. Maybe there's a few that are really famous in Russia. Maybe that mistake that happened early on with J.R.R. Tolkien's publisher, maybe that did help spread his book out a lot. You know, but there's going to be outliers for every situation.
Oh, for sure.
In general, it hurts the business. Now I wanted to talk about something that, let me put it this way, and I know that this is an analogy and a comparison, and it might not be fair, but piracy is basically a pirate puts your book up for free, people read it for free. People that defend piracy say, well, maybe that person will actually start buying your books down the road. Okay. I don't think that happens as often as you think. And I'll tell you, I've done a lot of signings at Comic-Cons with a lot of authors, and there are people that will come right up to the booth, look at my book, and look me right in the eye and say, I'm going to see if there's a free copy online. I'm not going to buy this book from you here at the Comic-Con and have you sign it. They'll literally look me right in the eye and say, I'm going to see if there's a free copy. In the comments when I was talking about the Metallica thing and Lars Ulrich,
some people don't have social. My God, that person just not have social skills.
Yeah, I think they got other problems to work on too.
Another point that you guys had made was, well, they might get it for free and leave you a good review on Goodreads or Amazon. Well, perhaps, but do you know how many? I read all of my reviews. I mean, because I don't have a lot. I mean, I'm just a small author. I don't have like millions of reviews like Brandon Sanderson. So I'll read most of them because I enjoy them. Some of the reviews will be like, this book sucked. It was crap. It was trash. It needed editing. The author's an idiot. He doesn't know how to write women well. All of his action scenes were stupid and all of his characters were dumb. And well, I'm glad I didn't pay for this. I'm glad I got it online for free and didn't have to pay for it. So there's those reviews you see a lot too. So for every positive review you get from a pirated copy, you're going to get a negative review from a pirated copy. And people value what they pay for. So usually if someone pays for it, they're going to leave a better review.
Something to add on to this, I do kind of want to take this in a direction that I generally agree with you on. Pirating books with just that, like the book exists online or the physical copy exists and then it's pirated and that's kind of the end of the story. For the most part, seems to be mostly negative. There's no upside. Where I do see some type of benefit is when you're talking about a lost leader sale. A lost leader means a lead to what? Like, so it can't just be a lead to the same book that the person just read. I think a really brilliant ladder that Brandon Sanderson utilizes, at least as a test case. I mean, he has publishers, he can't do this with everything, but how he does Warbreaker. Warbreaker has been on his website for free for quite a long time now. It just sits there on his website, but it sits in it's on his web page and it's a PDF. It's not an EPUB. It's not as comfortable on you still have to pay for the e-version. So, but then he doesn't just have an ebook. He has a physical copy. He has fancy, expensive $100 leather-bound edition.
Yeah.
And that selling that leather-bound edition is where most of the money from his company comes from.
Sure.
That is the money.
Yeah.
And this harkens back to what I think of with, you talk about Napster, and we look at the music industry. Music industry is now doing, it's mostly recovered. It's changed a lot from pirating. We now have streaming services. We have all these other things where now artists don't just they don't make money from their music. They make money from their tours, from their concert sales have skyrocketed to astronomical proportions, where that's now the moneymaker, where the music is just the lead.
And that's for the huge bands.
Sure, but my thought on this is, okay, the music industry was able to alter and change to figure out a way to combat pirating. My thought is, I think there's a couple authors in the game that have figured out a way to circumvent and, in a way, benefit from not just pirating, but offering their like e-version on for free. If they're not just someone else, but they pirated the book themselves, if you get what I mean. So that's kind of my thought to you. I want to ask you this question. How should, especially not a Brandon Sanderson, a newer author, what is something that they can do to offset this pirating game? Is there a way that they can loss lead their book in case it is pirated to something else?
Well, for me, I'm traditionally published, so I licensed the rights to my books to Saga Press, to Simon & Schuster, to German publishers, to audible.com. So they own the licensing. And audible.com has given my first book away for free on Audible before. So they do loss leads with my own books. But again, I signed a contract with them, giving them the permission to market it how they choose, and they marketed it how they chose. So I think for a small author like me, I leave it up to whoever I've signed over my licensing rights to make those decisions of how best to sell in this climate. And I think that they do take piracy into account. And they're like, well, if it's going to be free on pirated sites, we might as well make it free once in a while. Kind of like how Neil Gaiman had to talk his publisher into it. I think that it works briefly for a small, like I said, I go back to why did Neil Gaiman only do it for a month, or did he keep doing it? I don't know. It's a confusing thing. Your whole, I don't know the answer. I'll just be straight up.
Yeah, and I'm curious as well. I have a thought on this, but from your guys' perspective, hey, Grish, I guess you could answer too, but from your guys' perspective on this, we know why the pirators are going out there and why they're pirating it themselves, to go bring them somewhere else to somehow gain revenue, whether it's, maybe we're not talking about books and we're talking about pirating a simple TikTok short that we make. Sometimes that's just to garner more views and hopefully make ad revenue or something like that.
Any of our videos that get like over 1 million views on TikTok, several people take that trying to get their own views.
So we know the reasons why they're pirating it, but what do you guys think? And Brian, what do you think the reason is that the person goes out and seeks the pirated version? What are some of the top reasons that a consumer, people watching, because like you said, everybody, all three of us in this room, well, you on the screen, I'm going to consider you're in the room, Brian. I feel comfortable. Yeah, we're all here. So if all of us here have done something in the past, and all of our viewers at one point in their lives have gone to have gotten something free, what do you think those top reasons are from their perspective, and why is it such a big problem? Why is it such a big problem? What are the reasons they've done it?
That's an excellent question. And before I answer it, though, you mentioned people use your TikTok videos. I would be fine with people taking a chapter of mine here and there and posting it up there. I mean, that's different than the whole book,
Oh, I get you.
And even on Audible, they do a sample. They do like the first, they do like the first 15 pages on Audible as a sample. And even on Amazon.com, sometimes there's a sample. So sampling is fine. Sampling your YouTube channel and having people put little clips of you guys out. Oh, that most definitely helps you.
Oh yeah.
Just like sampling my book helps. The question is interesting because this goes back to one of the topics I wanted to talk about, which you guys mentioned in your video, is sometimes there are companies out there that piss us off so much with the decisions that they make that we're just like, you just want to pirate, you know, like I just got
Brian, name drop some. Come on, we got to know who you hate.
Yeah, I'll say the names.
Destroy those sponsors.
I just got I was using Microsoft Word 2007.
Oh my God.
Okay, so here's the thing is, back when I first bought Microsoft Word 2007, it came in a little disk that you put in your computer, and then it was just on your computer forever.
Mm-hmm.
Now I got the new Microsoft 365 or whatever, and it's a subscription service.
Mm-hmm.
I can't use the damn thing unless I'm online. And that just makes me furious. I'm like, well, they're just asking for people to hate them. and like I was watching a Netflix show with my buddy the other day, and I was like, God, the quality is garbage on this Netflix show. What's going on? You got this big screen TV, but this movie looks like crap. And he's like, well, Netflix, you sign up. It's almost like they punish you for signing up for Netflix, because he's like, watch, I'll go get this pirated version, and the quality is going to be better. He's like, I don't know why I'm paying for Netflix when they send me the substandard version of their movies, and I can go get the pirated version that shows crystal clear on my screen.
Yeah, do you think a part of that?
It's almost justified. At that point, it's almost justified,
right? Well, that's honestly, this kind of gets back to the crux of, I don't know if we can particularly beat the human, when something that's just as good, so something that's free, that's equal to of quality as something that's free, you can't beat that. And so what I think about with books, and I don't think every author could do this, but this is certainly something that publishers need to start being aware of, is figuring out things that cannot particularly be pirated. And I do think there's, for especially people that really love books, have money that they want to give authors, but there's no actual thing to buy. There's the book, and then there's the hardcover, and then, okay, $25 down the line, that's the end of your customer train, and they can't buy anything more. Where you do need to have more of these premium options. You need to have these other things where you can't pirate a leather-bound book.
True.
True. The different merch, like a plushie of a really cute character from your book, or I do think that is the direction to beat these pirates.
You do need a lot more resources for that, though, because when you're talking about your smaller authors and the solutions there.
That's what publishers are for.
Right.
They're the ones with the resources.
Well, what if you're self-published? And so here's the thing for the smaller author, and there's the funneling you can do. We could talk about that all day and go into, eventually have this and eventually have a leather bound. We dropped merch, and that took us like 5 to 6 months to put that all together.
Yeah.
To funnel to get money for merch to get that to start. By the way, go to tutorramble.com. So, but it took us to get that funnel and create that ourselves. It's much easier when you have a publisher, of course. But the crux of it is, this is something I wanted to toss out there, is how do you compete with a free version that's out there? And I think the answer is convenience, because there's a reason people buy Spotify subscriptions. Is you could go onto any site right now and get every single song you ever want for free instantaneously. Any song that's got at least a couple of years. But the reason people still pay for Spotify, or someone still goes out there and pays for Netflix, is I'd rather fork over X dollars for this small price, because it's just so convenient. I can pull up everything right there, and you're beating the cost that it would take me to go on this sketchy website and then maybe get malware. So the human purchaser, the person actually going out there, I think every day we make that decision of, hey, if I'm going on Amazon and I could rent a movie for $3-4, if it's not on there was this Brazilian movie I really freaking wanted to watch, and I went on Amazon and they didn't have it at all. And so then instantly I'm like, okay, who has it? Is it on Paramount? Paramount's got crap. No, of course not. Is it on this site? And I kept looking, and I actually went so far I couldn't even find a free version. I couldn't even find a pirated version. I was like, damn it. So there was no access to it. So I think one of the things that I look at as a consumer is, and that most do, is convenience. So how can you out-convenient the pirate? Is that so, Brian? Do you agree with that? Do you think that's a part of? And I don't know how it would be on the author's end or how you view that, because you're both a consumer and an author, so you can give us a little bit of that insight.
Yeah. Well, I think that just going to audible.com and subscribing is we're out conveniencing, because that's convenient. And the YouTube is convenient. That's why pirates use it.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Audible is a lot easier to go get an Audible account and subscribe and pay your $15 a month and just get things easy, because it's. But you guys brought up a point in your last video.
Yeah.
What happens when Audible goes out of business?
Right.
Then you're like, I should have just pirated this. Right?
It's personally why I use again, not sponsored by them, wish we were, but Libro.fm is Audible. But actually, in my case, it's significant improvements of I download DRM free audio file. Like, it's exactly what I want. I own those books.
They give you a better option than a pirated version would, because
100%. It's more convenient for me.
It's more convenient and gives you what you want.
For Audible's exclusivity deals, like some books are stuck on Audible for at least a year or something. Yeah, and so it's not on Libro.fm, which bothers me, but
yeah. And just to frame us here and help with that is we're all in agreement that the piracy itself, the person put it out there, shouldn't be doing it. I think we all agree it's Pandora's box is open. It's inevitable. How do you combat it? How do you react to it? And you bringing up the statistics of how much is lost in revenue. So I'm also curious with some of that is the loss in revenue looked at as in how many things were pirated, and if assuming that the pirated things would have gone towards purchasing the thing, or is it looking at the dip in where the thing was selling before versus after there was a pirated version available? Do you get what I'm saying with that, Brian? Of how they're
I don't know how they came up with their statistics. I just found them on the internet. Through the government.
Well, on Nordstrom.com or what was that pirated site?
I mean, Interpol, which is the worldwide policing agency, I got the statistics from them.
Oh, right. You did mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how they compile the statistics, and I don't know how these companies really judge that it was 991 billion. It's just, a lot of people are like, well, it's not a lost sale because that person wasn't really going to buy it anyway. Well, when you look at the statistics on my YouTube channel when I would, because you can go into, not my channel, but I went into some of the background on the videos that were posted of my audiobook and looked at the traffic sources. And it was mostly people typing in the name of the book. They were searching for it. They didn't just stumble upon it on YouTube. They didn't just go down the YouTube rabbit hole and there it was. They actually were looking for it. And it could have been one of those things where I'm going to buy the book, but let me see if it's online for free first, because that happens a lot. I mean, I was doing some graphic design work with a friend, and there was a thing we needed to do, but she needed a different little app or a different little thing for the design, and she's like, well, I can buy it from this, but let me see if I can find it online for free. I mean, how many times have you heard people say that?
I actually, a comment from our previous video, I think, brings some insight in that. And I'll put the commenter up here. I'm so sorry I don't have I didn't copy the name down. I apologize, name that's up here. But they were saying that personally, I find it extremely difficult to pay $10 or more for a book that I don't know I'll like. There's a number of authors who give away their first series for free, and et cetera, et cetera. It gives the explanation of what Sanderson did with Warbreaker and so forth. And a curious thing to ask you as well, because you have this book series in your first book, the Forgotten Moon, and so do you think part of that as well is if I'm going to a new author, someone's not aware of you, maybe they saw your YouTube channel and they're going, oh, Brian, funny, I like him and all that. And in that consumer mindset is like, oh, I hope his book is good, but I kind of want to know before I purchase the book, you know. And obviously having it, you could do a lot as an author, but maybe thinking of a way to make it really available. So your first 5 chapters are like, hey, The Forgotten Moon, check the link in the description below. You can read the first 10 chapters of my book for free. And then, you know, you get a little bit of that reader trust of, or I don't know if you've dealt with this stuff, if your publisher would let you do that, but just as a consumer point of view of sometimes you won't purchase something unless you know, oh, I trust them. I trust the Sanderson book. I trust I trust the Brian Lee Durfee video because the last 3 videos I watched were fun, and I'll subscribe and watch more.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that I can understand why people do that. I mean, I imagine I kind of do that a little bit. But I buy all of my physical copies of my DVDs, my Blu-rays, my CDs. I don't have Spotify. I still buy CDs of all my.
Hell yeah.
I'm an old guy. I collect that stuff since I was a kid.
Yeah.
All my books. And the first video, the video that I made for you guys with the book hot takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mine was don't ever lend your books out.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, I learned the hard way when I was a kid. I lent some of my books out to friends and they just came back trashed. And I'm like, I don't even like lending my books out. I don't even care. You know, I don't even like voluntarily giving a physical copy of a book to anybody because they're going to bring it back trashed. If not, you know, might not even give it back to me at all. So
these are true words. Yes.
So basically, I'm already starting at a point where I don't like giving books away. Even as a kid, I hated it. Even as a kid, I hated it.
Yeah.
And but I keep my collection nice. It's something that I like. There's a lot of books that I buy that I don't like, and I took the risk. I own the risk. I took the risk. And back in the day when I was a kid, there were no pirated books. I mean, it was like you went to the bookstore, the library, or the used bookstore, or you found a paperback in your grandpa's closet. You know, there was no like real pirating. There was no pirates out there making money or doing.
You were just reading at the speakeasy, waiting for the Great Depression to hit, right?
So when people, so I guess I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for that notion, just because I've taken a risk. There's even rock and roll bands that I've been huge fans of, and then they put out a new album and I put it on and I'm like, God, this sucks. I thought I trusted this band and this album.
I remember those days. But
I paid for it. I took the risk. That's the way it is. That's the way the world is, you know? And so the whole notion of I don't want to take a risk. Let me see if it's free. Audible.com gives free samples. I mean, I don't know about Kindle. I don't do ebooks. I hate them. I despise them. In fact, if people are pirating ebooks, I don't really care. It's the Audible book. It's the Audible that bothers me because I just know how much work went into it. On my end, the voice narrator, he loses money. He's on a royalty system. He loses money. Audible.com and recorded books lose money. The ebooks, like I said, I mean, I don't use them. I don't have one. I've never read an ebook in my life. So if people are stealing it, I shrug my shoulders. You know,
yeah,
I'm not giving people permission. I'm not giving my consent at the moment to steal it, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, Rich, what do you think about all that?
I will say it annoys me that I do this. Like, I do it because it's the right thing to do and I technically can afford it. But like Dune, I have purchased, I purchased the hardcover, 2 versions of the mass market edition. I bought the audiobook, and I've also purchased the ebook. At some point, like when I go down that train of how many times I purchased a book, I guess when I was getting to the ebook level, I was going, man, I've bought this book like 4 or 5 times. Do I really have to pay for the digital version? Can I please just get that bundled in with a hardback cover? Like, if I buy the hardback fancy version, can I just get bundled in the nice free ebook for
And doesn't
that bothers
Brandon
me a little bit that I've
offer
paid
that?
for this book 5 times.
What's that, Brian?
Doesn't Brandon Sanderson offer that in some of his things? If
Yeah,
you buy
yeah.
the collector's edition, you get
Mhm.
the ebook, you get all this other stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff that isn't tied up with his contracts, he does. Like, so all the secret projects, if you buy the physical copy, you get the e-copy for free, which I love and I want to do myself in the future.
So just so you can have some insight into what whenever an artist like me or an author like me puts out a statement that says they don't like piracy and they think it's wrong, the backlash is huge.
Oh yeah.
People,
Nobody likes being told that they're wrong, and they are, and it's a selfish response of when someone goes like commenting to you of saying, "Oh, you're against there's nothing wrong with it." It's just they don't like when someone tells them that they're doing a wrong thing.
On that video that I made when my books were most recently put on YouTube, there were a lot of comments of, well, now I know where you stand on piracy. That makes me feel confident in never buying your trashy books ever, you know? And that's when my anger management rears up, when my emotions get involved, and then I type back, well, I don't want some loser.
Your mother's a whore. I don't think I can say that. Like, Brian, you can't say that. This is like, that 13-year-old just decided to comment on your video.
I know. But that's where the emotion gets involved. I mean, when we talk about, you know, because there are going to be people that say, there are going to be people that always believe, and God, they might even be right in a lot of ways, that piracy is only good for the artist. They could be right. But whether they're right or wrong, I haven't given my consent to be part of the game of piracy. I don't want it. I don't want people pirating my books. So that should be the end of the story. And the law is on my side. The law is on my side.
Hey, to clarify again, we're on your side. We don't think people should go out and pirate, like create copies of the pirate. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I know that. I'm not talking about you guys.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Well, we're
say
taking a very practical stance of like, it's happening. How do you respond? What are the benefits? Again, what Neil Gaiman was saying about the silver lining, and that approach of it's happening. How do I take this to my advantage? With things still being wrong and bad, like the world we live in, it's going to happen. I find it very curious as well. Oh, sorry, Brent, you were finishing a point as well. I didn't mean to interrupt you with that. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, the fact that if I say that as bluntly as I say it, it's gonna piss people off and they'll never read my books. In fact, if your video goes viral for whatever reason, I will be like someone that people will never read. Just like
did you see his eyes look when it said go viral for whatever reason? Like,
oh, I know.
He's like, no chance that's happening. An hour plus pod with the boys. No.
But the thing is that's what happened to Metallica when Lars Ulrich came out and was just said it bluntly, "You're stealing my music." They lost a lot of fans because of that. And, you know, that's why a lot of people don't talk about it. And I just, the only other point I wanted to make was, and like I said, this is a comparison that may or may not be exactly accurate, but, you know, the people that say piracy is good, they say, well, it leads to future sales. Someone might read your book, like it, and then later on buy some of your product. That would be like this comparison, like someone breaks into your house, they steal some of your stuff, and then they go tell everybody, hey, that house has a lot of cool stuff in it. You guys should go take it. It's free. So more people are coming into your house taking free stuff. And then maybe 4 or 5 of them are like, God, that free stuff we got from that house was really awesome. I think next time I go back, I'm going to offer the guy some money for it.
Yeah.
Here's
the thing. We're getting at the, I don't think pirating is beneficial to the author or anyone involved really, but I think the main question I'm trying to ask and show examples of is, but what if it can? On its own, it can't.
And it's
without the author and without the publisher doing things to lend it to their benefit, that if it's just happening to them, yeah, it's a negative. It's a straight up negative.
Right. And this conversation is only happening, just to clarify with that analogy, like the physical versus digital. Digital creates a whole nother echelon of moral and problems here, because I think we can all agree someone goes into your house and takes something and take something away.
That is also the difference of digital and physical, with loss of a physical item.
Right.
Shoplifting versus just taking something off the internet.
Right.
It's easier to justify just taking it off the internet.
Well, it's not just justify. It's with the loss of a physical item, there is an actual tangible loss for the owner, where a
zero-sum game.
Exactly. With the loss of a digital item, you could argue that yes, it's loss of a potential sale, but that's still a potential sale. It's not a direct one-to-one loss. Yeah, and so that's where
if it was or not.
You don't.
It's all kind of up in the air.
Right.
But that's where it makes it a little bit more interesting.
Right. Because if I take Rich's phone, I gain, you lose. Versus I take digital item, I gain, do you lose is the question. And like the whole debate then is, okay, is that a potential future seller? Will they have bought your thing anyway? So that's where that kind of moral quandary comes, of not on the pirator's end who's sending it out, but on the consumers and how people justify it. And that's what you're getting at, right, Rich?
Yeah. And to bring back to your with pirating not being a thing, it's very easy. Like, if there is no other option, they will pay for it, or they just won't pay for it, and it's simple.
Unless that one asshole who walked up to you and said, "I'm going to pirate your book."
But seeing as someone that says like, "Oh yeah, I'll never pirate the book," you know what I mean? I'll never pay for the book. I'd only pirate. It's like, yeah, you only say that because pirating's an option.
I have a question for you guys.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think about AI? People using AI to create artwork, people using AI to write stories.
Yeah, I view it the same way. I mean, we've had an AI discussion on the channel before, and the position I kind of take is the more optimistic approach of AI is inevitable. I think that the predictions of it writing like an author are very far away. I don't think it'll be able to mimic a full epic fantasy novel anytime soon. Can it summarize things? Can it do that? Yes. Eventually, this will be a problem. I like to look at it in the same way that other industries have already dealt with it. And something that I'm familiar with, and people on this channel have heard, is chess. I'm a chess player, and Deep Blue. How are you familiar with Deep Blue beating Kasparov? Okay, so in the chess world, when basically computers began to beat humans and destroyed them, and now a human can never beat a chess player. So, human
can never beat AI.
Yeah, can never beat the AI now. So the way I look at AI, just like I look at piracy, is Pandora's box is open. It's inevitable. How can the industry, how can the chess player, the author, the director react to it? And in one way with the chess world, is chess has actually gotten bigger and more prosperous. It's both streaming and professionals and so forth. Everything's gotten bigger. And a large part of that is the attention that's been brought to it. And even though computers are better, even though AI is better, or relating this to piracy, even though piracy will get better and more accessible, I think there's still that human element that... and I've said this in an episode before, where humans are more pro-human than we think. We don't want to watch perfection. Even if the AI is perfection, I'd rather support that human behind the screen than that AI. And that's my hope, but also using some credibility behind other industries have dealt with this shift and this change. And I'm hopeful that we'll also be able to do that. And technology is going to progress. All we can do is try to react and appropriately put it so you still have the human element there. Because with Rich, this, and Brian, I'm sure you do, with Christopher Paolini had his AI, a cover art was done, and it came from, I don't know if it was exactly taken from some stock image of AI. Is that right, guys? Or clarify for me.
Basically, they took a stock image, which the artist purchased, this was completely normal. As you take it. You buy a stock image, you modify it, and then you're good to go.
Right.
However, the stock image was, sold to whatever site it was.
Something.
Was an AI-generated piece of art.
Right.
Which the controversy went down to, hey, the artist should have realized this was AI-generated and not an original artist, because the hands was off and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, to that point, there was a more of an outrage of like, I can't believe this was an AI cover. Like, I wanted to be supporting actual artists. So, just like you can watch a chess game, and here's the next part that comes with AI conversation. I'd love to ask you, Brian, but with an author, how would you know if an AI wrote that or if it was an actual person? That's another element of the conversation. And my guess and my hope is that as AI, as piracy, all this stuff gets better, so does the detectors, so does the ways to combat it, because technology just doesn't go in one way. Technology will both grow. Like when malware grows, so does malware and spyware grows, so does internet defense capabilities. So the attacks will get stronger, so will the defenses. And so AI is not just going to be this one direction. There's going to be that human element. But Brian, as an author yourself, where do you think AI is at? How do you think it relates to the whole piracy conversation? And what are your concerns?
The reason I brought it up is because AI in the art world seems to be the big moral outrage of the moment. Everybody's outraged about it. Like, oh my gosh, this is we're stealing from other artists. You're creating art using the artwork of other artists, and you're cobbling it together like a Frankenstein painting of all these other artists, and you're not giving them credit, or they're not getting the money for it. It's like the big moral outrage that everybody seems comfortable talking about, but all those same people will never say piracy's bad.
I see your point. So you're saying that AI art, people are outraged by that, but then when someone goes and pirates something,
they don't give a shit. And provable fact, I was one of my friends who makes it a point to tell everybody, man, if you're smart enough, you don't have to pay for anything anymore. You can just get it on the internet for free. He makes it a point to tell everybody that that's his MO. And then I saw him do a moral outrage post on Facebook about how awful AI art was. And I was like, I didn't say anything, but in my mind, I was like, well, I mean, you know where I'm going with this, right?
Right.
I follow so many friends on this video. They'll know who I'm talking about. I'm like, so you basically pirate everything on your computer is pirated, but you're going to take a stand on AI art because that's the fashionable thing at the moment and nobody's going to call you out on it. Yeah, that's why I brought it up. It's because it seems to be the fashionable outrage.
I think
people
I think the reason why people can be outraged, and maybe this is a pessimistic view on human nature, is generally people don't buy art all the time. Like, who here is like digital art, especially? Like it's something that is separated from them because they're not actually buying the art. It's not part of their MO. They go, oh, how dare someone steal it? Versus someone where they actually they do want to, or they have pirated books and movies or television, whatever have you. And so when someone says that's wrong, you're telling them that you're wrong for doing it. It's the same thing of when someone tells a joke, it's all fun and games when you're laughing at that other person, but as soon as the joke comes on you, now there's an outrage.
Part of it might also be that when AI art, let's say that AI art is a cover of a book, there's that zero-sum game we're talking about is an AI took the job of a person. Whereas when someone goes online and takes an ebook, it's like, oh, the author's already got money. Like the author's already out there. I'm not taking away a job from somebody. So that kind of intuition, that thought.
Also the lower level thought, not lower level as in like necessarily lower intelligence, it's just less attention, less time has been spent on this thought, is I think when people say, oh, I think it's good to pirate, they think they're sticking it to the man. That, oh, I'm hurting big old Amazon. I'm hurting big old Audible. Like they're
not thinking about the author, right?
The author already got their money when they signed the book. And that's my guess, is most people think I'm sticking it to the man, and they don't realize, no, you're hurting the little guy.
Yeah, you're hurting. Yeah, you use a piece of AI art on a book cover. Yeah, that's one less book cover for an illustrator to do.
Precisely, yep.
So that is a job lost. Enough piracy, though, as the Interpol statistics bear out, a lot of jobs are lost because of that too. So it's equivalent, I think. But you did make a good point about I forgot what the point was.
Must not have been that good.
I think in the middle of you making it, I said that's a good point. People can rewind and see where I said that.
I got to use that one. That's a good point. What? I don't know.
I don't remember.
I'm using that.
Also something to think about the AI art stuff of the reason why I'm also a little less hesitant on the art is all artists develop their own style by looking at other people's art. And that is how you learn by copying other art or copying an aspect in all these infinitely small ways. And does that artist pay the artist for that work? No, they're just because like, I'm not buying that work. I'm just looking at it online and going, oh, that's cool. Let me see if I can do that myself. That's really what AI is doing. It's not like it's ripping something and then doing it for free. It's compiling millions of images together and taking little aspects of other things and amalgamating them together. So how do you judge who do you pay?
And that circles back to Metallica. And every big rock band, they got their start playing covers of other bands.
Yeah.
You know, they would go into a bar or a club and literally play other bands' entire catalogs of music, and then the bar would pay them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Robert Jordan just got paid for copying Lord of the Rings, right?
Screw you. Lord of the Rings. Yeah, like, you know, like Pierce Brown just went and copied Dune.
Well, more like Hunger Games, right?
Hunger Games and Dune.
Sorry, Brown, we have a whole beef on this channel, so.
Oh, hey, I can tell you exactly which authors I tried to mimic their writing style.
Oh, who? Well, I'm very curious.
Larry McMurtry is my favorite. He did Lonesome Dove and the Westerns. Yeah. I try to mimic a lot of what Stephen King does and a lot of what George R.R. Martin does and Tad Williams and Ken Follett. Those are probably the main ones.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I study their writing styles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how can I use those techniques in my own writing to better my own writing? Just like Van Halen uses, you know, they looked at the rock gods like Led Zeppelin before then. How's Led Zeppelin doing this? Let's mimic what they're doing. You know, you're right. Every artist has kind of cherry picked their favorite things of all their favorite artists and kind of put it into their own art, whether it's drawing, painting, rock and roll music, authors, movie makers.
That's kind of where
Red Rising or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think this is kind of what we're getting all at, that these problems have not, they're not new. It's just a matter of scale. I mean, how much loss to an author comes around when the book is offered at the library for free, to certain degrees, or the secondhand bookstore, or even the friend who owns a book and then they borrow the book instead.
Good examples in this house. Rich, you have only loaned out your Red Rising books to our roommate Connor.
Yeah.
So Connor has never purchased something for Red Rising.
No.
He's just gone down here, picked it off the shelf. That's right.
But thing is, that has been fine because of the scale of it.
Yes.
And now with the internet, it's ballooned out of control where the scale of the problem is worse. To me, that means that just that the scale of the problem is worse, the scale of the solution has to be using the internet to scale up a different means of monetization.
Yeah.
Wow, well said.
It's interesting because the movie business used to be different, where the movie would come out and then around the early 1980s, video cassettes became a thing. And so then we had video stores. And so now the movie making business could double their profits because they make the movie, people go see the movie, there's a big chunk of money. And then a year later, they put the VHS tape in the Blockbuster video, and there's another big chunk of money. But people were still pirating it. People would literally go into movie theaters with their camcorders and film the movie and then pirate it out. But the thing is, when they got caught, they went to prison. Now the pirates rarely get caught, and if they do, nothing happens because it's so prevalent. I mean, even the law enforcement is like, this is just a game of whack-a-mole.
Right.
You can arrest one, but 20 others are. I think everybody at this point is just kind of like done the Neil Gaiman thing. It makes me grumpy. What can I do? I better just find the silver lining and look at the positives that might happen from it. And to answer your question that you keep asking me over and over, like, what do you think the answer is? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think me and Neil Gaiman and everybody else is just kind of like, it is what it is. Let's cross our fingers and hope it doesn't hurt us too much. And if we want to be outraged on the internet once in a while and throw a little hissy fit like I do, I guess that's all you can do.
Hey,
right?
hey, that's what the internet is for.
Come on now, yeah. Do you have any advice for Richard and I? Let's say we get a first book out there. What do you think we should do? How should we, as an author yourself, what should we do about this? Thinking about piracy, thinking about getting your book out there. What's the best advice you have?
I guess know what's happening. If you're going to self-publish or traditionally publish, I think if you're traditionally published, it's more apt to happen to you.
Okay.
I think if you're self-published, most 99% of self-published people aren't reached a level of any sort of name recognition that the pirates would even bother pirating their stuff. But if you hit it really big with your self-published books, and then you're going to be dealing with it for sure. What is the advice? Well, you can take my route and make a YouTube video about it and scream at everybody. Or you can do the Neil Gaiman route and just be like, it is what it is.
Right.
I guess I'll play nice with the pirates and hopefully, I don't know. I have no advice.
Well, you saying you need to be big enough to be copied. It's definitely true. And so although you were grumpy like Neil Gaiman and everybody that gets their work stolen, you're going to have that human reaction. Yeah. A little bit of you's got to be flattered. A tiny bit.
You're big enough. You're big enough to be pirated.
Goes, someone wanted to pirate my book. Like, I know that's not the first thought, but maybe the 10th thought that comes to mind. Yeah.
Gosh, man, I never thought of it that way.
What would be worse is your book's doing so poorly that no one ever pirates it.
So, like, I'm not pirating that. That's no.
That's, I think, the worst scenario.
No one's going to click the malware because no one's going to want to look up the free version. At least they honored you by going, I'm going to get a lot of illegal clicks off of this.
I don't know how much you guys have ever watched the show Seinfeld.
I love it.
Yes, I've
occasionally. This was a big deal back when I was younger. Mm-hmm. But Seinfeld, there's an episode where Jerry wanted to be stab worthy, which meant I want a girl to love me so much that when I piss her off, she stabs me. I want to be stab worthy. That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
Pretty much.
Am I stab worthy? Are my books out there enough?
If no one's plotting your assassination, are you a good enough leader? I don't know. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's a hot take.
Okay, I'll shut up. We'll end it there.
I hope you guys understand, and I hope I made it clear to the viewers that I don't like the pirates themselves. The people that do go get stuff for the internet from free, that's just is what it is. I don't really have a beef with them because I've done it. I've accidentally done that kind of stuff too. Mm-hmm. Another thing is it makes me angry. I mean, I have an anger issue when I see it, and I lash out on the internet about it. And but I think that's a natural reaction, I guess. And I have no answers. I don't know what to do about it. So I guess that would be my final thought. And other than I know for a fact that you are going to have in the comments the people that watch this, there's going to be some people that are going to be positive towards our conversation, but there's going to be people that are going to be like, that Durfee guy's an idiot. Every one of his statistics was bogus. Every one of his stories was trash. You know what I mean? It's gonna
Oh
happen.
yeah. Thankfully, Asa and I have weathered the negative comments, I think, pretty well. And both of us have a pretty good attitude over.
Yeah.
If a comment is negative and I and it makes me upset, it normally means I like try and think about it like there's probably a nugget of truth in there that I agree with. That's why it makes me upset. There's something in there to be upset about. However, most of the time now when I look at negative comments and it's just complete nonsense, like they're just wrong, it just makes me laugh. It's more funny to me than it is hurtful. Because I'm like, idiot. Okay, move on with my day.
I have you to thank because no one in the comment section has said anything mean enough that you haven't said to me in my face.
Yeah, that's true. I've inoculated you to the negative comments.
After this video comes up, we'll see. I'm curious what the comments are on this because in our previous piracy video, we had both back and forth. Our community is pretty cool, though. I think they'll really love you. Some of the comments were going, "Hey, good points you guys made." Then we also had comments that were throwing us some things we never heard of, like that whole Maggie. Her last name's so hard to pronounce. I'm so sorry. Stiflatter, the Raven cycle. Didn't know about that, and a commenter presented that.
It was great to read on that.
So yeah, we're hoping that's what the comment section's filled with. But Brian, we have taken a ton of your time. This was super fun for us, and as you can tell, this is what we geek out over. Rich, I'll let you speak, but yeah, go ahead.
I did want to make a video on my own channel of my thoughts on piracy, but then when you offered to let me talk on your channel, I was like, well, I will just say everything I want to say on your channel.
Now, yes.
In the spirit.
I will direct everybody to your channel to watch.
No, we have an idea. We hope you like this. Yeah, Rich, you want to give that?
In the spirit of piracy. You know, after we film the video and edit it all together, we're just going to send it over to you. If you want to upload the whole video on your channel, you're welcome to.
We give you consent. We give you full permission.
Consent. You just upload it for yourself.
We think it'll be nice and quirky for the whole point of the video, but
it's just
up to you. No pressure. So
we'll see what happens. I'm more than likely going to make a separate video that's maybe 2 minutes long where I just say, hey, I wanted to rant about piracy some more. I did it on these guys' channel. Here's the link.
Thank you. That's probably the proper.
That way we get all the negative comments on our channel. You don't have to see them.
Good point.
Well, I'll scroll through every once in a while to see what people say. I'm not going to respond.
Oh,
feel free to.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
We love it.
Everything I need to say. I think I've said everything I need to say.
Awesome.
Right. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Love the discussion. Again, this is kind of what we live for, is the kind of philosophical, moral discussion stuff. And really, we're also really glad that you got the pirated videos on YouTube taken down. Really glad to hear that. And hope to do something with you again sometime soon.
This was a blast. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, you guys.
Also, check out the links to his books will be in the description below. But go actually support an author this time.
The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, The Lonesome Crown, all published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. You'll see that in every intro of his video, and it's hilarious. He's self-aware. Don't worry.
All right. Bye, all.
Bye, everybody.